Hi, everyone. Welcome to Feast Foreplay. We're the Festival of Embodiment and Sexual Transformation, and I'm here today chatting with Josslyn Owleye. Welcome, Josslyn.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for
It's
having me.
it's so great to have you. This is your first time with us and first time at Feast and part of the Feast community. It's so great. Thank you for making this time.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. And this year you're facilitating with us. So today we're just going to have a bit of a chat about what you're offering, a bit about your journey to get to here, what's important to you about erotic learning spaces and see where else we go.
Sounds great.
Yes. So Jocelyn, do you want to kick us off and tell us about maybe remembering back the first time you stepped into group erotic learning spaces, what that was like for you, what the challenges were, and where that kind of led you to from there?
Yeah, for sure. Uh, so I sort of stumbled across sexological bodywork after I was in a Masters of Sexology program at the University of Sydney and found it really impractical. I really, was at a point in my career as a therapist where I wanted things that were really, really practical that I could really use with clients.
Mhm.
And I had a lot of clients coming to me with sex and intimacy issues and no training in how to kind of manage that. And so I sort of stumbled upon sexological body work, and I was sort of umming and ahhing about whether or not I wanted to invest, the time and the money and personal energy and all of that stuff into the course. And a friend said, "Oh, they run this festival called Feast. Maybe you should go and see if they're your people." And I was like, "Oh, this looks delicious." So,
Yeah.
yeah, in 2022, I attended Feast, and that was my first experience of being in an erotic learning space.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
great.
went by myself, which was a bit scary, but really, really fun because I guess wasn't constrained by, having to hang out with friends or partners or anything like that.
Mhm.
Um, and could sort of just explore and take the bits and pieces that I wanted to and connect with people in the way that I wanted. So yeah.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
And
so that was my first experience.
yeah. And do you remember like traveling there and coming into the space for the first time? Can you remember that? Or is it a bit of a blur?
Yeah, no, I remember it very vividly. Kind of coming up to the door of the big space where we would all eat, but also the big practice space. And this lovely human came up to me with this huge smile on his face and was wearing a bandana and said, "Are you open to a hug?" And I was like, "Oh my God, yes, I'm open to a hug."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
really looked at me like in my eyes, but also like I felt held by the way that this person looked at me. And I was like, oh, I feel like I'm home. It was
Yeah.
kind of an instant feeling of comfort and um safety, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. So that personal connection right from the door, right from that first step in.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did that mean to you, Jocelyn, to have that?
Um I think this is something that happened over and over and over again on the weekend, that I had this sense of being home and a sense of being with people who were just like me and
Mhm.
not feeling like a weirdo, not feeling like because I'm extremely tactile. I'm always wanting to touch everything. I've always been like that since I was a very small child, um, which often got me into trouble. I was always someone who was very affectionate and who couldn't sit still for very long. And desired really deep connection with people.
Mm.
And so I kept having this, and I really love ritual as well, and even like right from the beginning, the kind of opening rituals, where
Mm.
we had where we were welcomed onto the country, where the festival was held, and our feet were washed, and all of those beautiful rituals, and then entering the space and everyone kind of saying where they were from, around the country, and
Mm.
then making agreements. Every bit of that was so well thought out and intentional,
Mhm.
and those are things that are really important to me in my
Mm.
life in general, but also in my practice, like in my work with other people.
Mm.
And so yeah, there was just this sense of safety and connection and being held by that space and the people in it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love hearing that that was your experience as a first timer and first ever, group erotic learning space. To have that kind of experience is really significant.
Hmm.
And yeah, we are so intentional in all these little pieces that come together, just little step and the next little step. So that leads people into this bigger container. And it sounds like that's what it was like for you over and over again across that weekend. Yeah,
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was,
yeah.
and not always easy. Like it was not always an easy space to sit for sure, because a lot of really deep work happens. And I think that was something that really surprised me. I was like, oh, I'm going to a sex festival in northern New South Wales, and everyone's like, ooh,
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but actually, oh, it's like a process of spiritual alchemy. It was like
Mm.
layers and layers and layers of myself were like shed. And
Yeah.
and I had to get in touch with like some really broken parts of myself, or not broken parts, but parts that were really wounded,
Mhm.
by childhood and by relationships and by just experience in a world that's really disconnected.
Yeah.
And so the kind of deep healing work that occurred there, that repairing my relationship with my body and myself, um,
Mm.
was something that I hadn't anticipated.
Mm.
Um, and I saw that happening for other people as well, which
Mm.
was really beautiful.
Mm.
And also, I think as a therapist, it's sometimes really difficult for me to step into a group space without being the leader of that space. And
Mm.
so for me, it was really profound kind of experience to go, no, you're here for yourself this weekend, and you're just going to take all of the good, juicy, wonderful, but also difficult and painful experiences,
Yeah.
and you don't have to hold space for anybody this weekend. This is just for you, like this gift that I could
Mm.
give to myself. And yeah, it changed my life. So,
Yeah, it sounds like it was a huge pivot point, which emerged from seeing a gap in your work, but then became a personal journey of finding your way and being surprised. I mean, Feast is such a journey. There is so many twists and turns over the time together. That's what I love. Originally, I think the first one was 2 nights, and now we're three. It's such a container of holding that makes that possible. So you can go there, you can dive deeply or not. It's all welcome. But yeah, it's a journey.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's
Jocelyn,
beautiful.
I'm curious. So this opened the door then, and then you went on to study sexological bodywork and somatic sexology.
Yeah, for
Where has
the
that
next
taken you?
year.
Yeah, the next year. So where has that taken you now? Like, what are you doing with that work? What are you offering?
Yeah, so 2024 was quite a difficult year for me. I had a lot of health complications and lots of big dramatic life change. And so where it's taken me has been different from where I anticipated.
Mhm.
But primarily running workshops for people. So and I also use it in my work a lot as a trauma therapist. So I work with primarily with victim survivors of sexual assault and family violence. And so I weave sexological bodywork, not the bodywork aspect of it, but somatic sexology into kind of everything that I do. But yeah, I have run some workshops since graduating. So running a cuddle gathering a little while ago that was sort of half cuddle gathering and half um, embodied consent workshop,
Mm.
which was very successful and just like such a nourishing, beautiful kind of space. I felt really privileged to be able to do that. But I also ran some workshops with one of the other students that I was in the program with that were like play spaces, erotic play spaces, or kind of temple spaces where we incorporated things that we learned in sexological bodywork into the work that we were doing.
Beautiful. I love hearing that you are bringing sexological bodywork into that intersection with victim survivors of sexual trauma, because that's an area of my passion also. It's such a important area of work. So I love hearing that you're doing that. I'm curious, Josslyn, if you would be willing to talk about why is that so important to you? Why is it important to be working on sex, intimacy, pleasure after people have experienced trauma?
Sure. Well, most of my clients, I would say, have really, as a protective measure, lost connection with their body. Their body was not safe for a period of time. And that
Mm.
could have been, just a single incident or for, many, many years. And so in order to survive, they've disconnected from their body and don't experience a lot of sensation. And I guess the problem with that is that when you numb out all of the painful things, you also numb out all of the good things, right? You don't have access to pleasure in the same way, or it can become kind of a self-destructive aspect of your life that could then lead to experiencing more trauma. And I think so that's, I guess, one part of it. Another part of it is that a lot of my clients are really, really fearful of going out into the world and starting new relationships with people because
Mhm.
because they're so disconnected from their felt experience of the world and of other people that they don't know when something is a yes or a no
Mm.
because they can't feel it because feeling is too painful.
Yeah.
Um, and so they can't connect with that kind of internal felt sense of safety and danger. And I think that that's incredibly important. I think that everybody should have access to really safe, loving, nourishing relationships with others and with pleasure. And so that's yeah, I guess they're the reasons why I think those things are so important.
Mm.
And yeah, giving them creating a container of safety where they can move towards their or figure out what their edges are, move towards their edges in the way that feels most safe to them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such important work. Hey, I think often trauma work misses this bit, like it's like the healing of trauma, but then there's no how then do we reconnect to pleasure and through the body. It's so important. And yeah, it's a relational piece too for a lot of people. It impacts their personal relating. And
Yeah.
something a lot of survivors deeply desire, but don't know how to get there.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's massive and it is. It's something that is ignored by often by psychologists, by the medical field, by, all different practitioners that work with the body. And then clients are saying, oh, but I'm having pain during sex, or or I'm dissociating, or
Mhm.
can't orgasm or whatever it is, and they get like, no, that's not for this space. We don't talk
Mm.
about that stuff, or oh, you're gonna have to see, a specialist because that's too scary,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then I think just being just raising the question is so scary for people. And then when they receive that response from the people who are in those helping professions, that
Mm.
sort of shut down response, they then experience shame and shut down,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that adds to there's just layers of shame, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's such a binding when we have shame, it's such a binding kind of thing somatically in the body. But also sometimes I notice with the people I work with that there's this felt sense that it's not even welcome here. Yeah, like it's not, it doesn't even get to the point of putting it on the table. Yeah. And to be fair, a lot of practitioners aren't, this is missing from our training. This is missing. We're ill-equipped, and we also bring all our own stuff into this space. We're all, we all have sexual shame, sadly, in this culture. So it just shuts down these really important, vital conversations and healing.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
which is just such a shame, I think. And
Mhm.
then yeah, I mean, I think that there's complexity around things like um I was just speaking with a client about it recently about that sort of biological non-concordance when they might experience something that would look like pleasure or look like arousal to somebody else, and that has then been used against them by perpetrators of violence um, as permission, and that then also creates another level of kind of shame and like internal sort of gaslighting, and yeah, there's a lot of complexity there, and takes time to unpack.
Yes. Yeah, it's an interesting space. I think there is so much complexity there. And I don't know if you notice this, but what I also notice in working, particularly in couples or where one person has experienced sexual violation, trauma, what I notice is everything that's going wrong in that sex and relating and intimacy space gets put into the trauma basket. And I also think that's a myth, like something like body non-concordance. Like none of us get the sex ed we absolutely need. So we're all swimming in amongst this myth and misinformation and performance agenda, sexual scripts. So some of this work is kind of teasing this out, like what is trauma? And yeah, sure, it does impact, and also acknowledging there's a whole bunch of other stuff that impact on us all in this space. Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
I went to a Catholic all-girls school, and my sex ed did not include like kink or sensation play or queerness in any way, or
Yes,
anything about gender, outside of a binary, like, so yeah,
yes.
there's a lot of layers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all that unpacking that we all get invited to do. Yeah. And I love the thing about Feast is there's opportunities because we've got different facilitators of different flavors, and there's so many opportunities to do that in so many different ways. And I think this is a lifelong journey. I don't know that you kind of just get there wherever there is, that there's some destination that you land. It's forever learning and staying curious and exploring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
also love that there's so many options. In every workshop, there was options about how much or how little you participate, and that you're on your own journey. It's not like you have to go there and everything is hardcore, that you can, there was always well, this circle is for self-touch and this circle is for, being with other people, or this circle is just, sitting here and holding space, or whatever it is. There were
Mm.
always options for the way that you could participate. And I think having choice makes us feel like we have agency. Um, it means that we can step into a space a little bit at a time, like kind of dip our toe in the water, but also is really beautiful in that we can sometimes we might just want to hold space for other people and witness their joy, witness their discovery, and I think you get all of those opportunities, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is a really important value that we hold around consent. Yeah, and I think when as I'm listening to you, I'm reminded that feast really, the whole invitation of feast is to slow down and notice and choose whatever that choice is. And participation, has many, many faces in the space. I know there's times where I've chosen to sit out of erotic learning spaces, and they are some of the richest, and not sit out like I'm on the edge and I'm just observing. It's a different way of participating. I have had some of the richest, most beautiful experiences that still stay with me. So yeah, that real, authentic, and embodied choice is so important to us. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Jocelyn, I can hear your passion for group spaces and workshops and bringing people together. I'm curious about like what you do in those spaces to support people to stay in choice and to be on their learning edges in those group spaces. Is there particular things that you do or bring into your work that support people to do that?
Yeah, I think giving people a lot of choice, making things optional, making sure that you're really setting the stage, I guess. So letting people know what will happen in the space, making agreements about what is okay and what isn't okay in the space, I think is really, really important. Talking about why I do things, what my training is and what I know and what I don't know. You know, because I want this is something that I do in group spaces, but also as a therapist, I'm not a mysterious wizard that has like all the answers, you know? I'm
Yeah.
just learning. I'm someone who's very observant and very present and can notice. And that's kind of what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
In that space. And yeah, I have lots of tools and I've done lots of training and things like that. But primarily, I'm just being really, really present and creating a container of safety for people.
Mm.
And that I think um, allows other things to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of
Possible.
the most important things as a facilitator, isn't it? Like creating that container and holding and then trusting what's going to unfold. And often we don't know, but that sense of holding and presence with people to allow that to happen, so valuable.
Yeah, and I think giving people language for what they're experiencing in their body and just letting people know, yeah, this is energy moving in your nervous system. Like you won't die from your feelings. Like I think that's something that is really important for people to know. If I'm having a sensation or if I'm having a big emotion or if I'm having something, I can sit with it and I can make space for it and make space around it and I can just notice and that there will be people there that will take you through that journey, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Would you like to share a bit about the workshops that you're offering at Feast this year
Sure.
for us? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm running a workshop about erotic writing, and I can't remember what I called it because it was a while ago that I
You called
that
it
you had.
writing from the body.
Yeah, okay, that's right. So I kind of started the kernel of this workshop started a few years ago. I facilitated a kind of similar workshop at the Queer Literature Festival in Victoria.
Mhm.
And because I am a writer, I write poetry and read my poetry sometimes, and maybe one day would like to get published. That would be nice, but haven't been yet. So I I noticed that a lot of my writing it's very visceral and it's very sense oriented. And I also kind of I was writing a lot about what is it like to be in a queer body moving through the world. And so that was kind of the kernel of this idea came from that workshop. Really, I want to give people experiences where they can drop into their bodies and drop into their senses, like their sense of smell and taste and touch and sound, to enhance their writing, I guess, whether it's like to write erotic fiction or erotic poetry or just a love letter or to sext to, you know, someone they might be dating or whatever. To really bring in those juicy kind of visceral elements into their work. And
Beautiful.
I've got lots of percolating ideas and they keep changing. So I don't, how it will actually look 100% in May is a different story.
Yeah, I love it. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
it's
very
your queer writing. Oh, and so people don't have to be a writer to come and play with writing. Yeah, yeah.
I want it to be very hands-on and yeah, very hands-on and very experiential. Um and embodied. I want it to be an embodied experience. One of the ideas that I've been tossing around is I found these really amazing um, body art textures, like markers, and I thought about us writing on each other's bodies, which I think would be a really lovely kind of experience, but also the sensation of experiencing that on your skin, I think would be really nice. So that's one idea that I was thinking about. But yeah, I will have I want to create stations where people can experience words in the most delicious way that that is open to them. And then there will be time in the workshop for actual writing, but I want a big part of the workshop to be about experiencing words in a different way.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. And you're also doing it eco-sexual delights.
Yeah. So, okay. So, this I guess came out of my experience at my sex bod training. I developed this really bizarre erotic relationship with the creek at the place where we were staying. So every
Yeah.
morning, because I have some lower back pain and the cold water in the creek's really good for the pain. So I'd go down every morning when there was nobody there and I would like stand on the edge of the creek and then had this sense, because I've spent a lot of time in nature, being in nature is really important to me. It has always been this sense of like, I need to ask permission to enter the creek because I was thinking a lot about consent and it just came, I don't know, it just came to me and so I would ask kind of permission to enter the creek and then kind of be fully swallowed up right up to my
Mm.
neck and just sort of float and had these incredible um experiences with the creek. And I was
Makes total sense to me.
telling people in the training about it, and they're like, "Oh, we think you're probably an ecosexual." And I was like, "I don't know what that is, but I need to know more about this." And I
Mhm.
think it goes along with my writing, that really visceral kind of noticing, you know, kind of being in my body, but noticing. I was watching like, for example, I was watching this caterpillar the other day, and it was kind of its body, it was really juicy and it was undulating like this down a leaf to get to the greenest, freshest leaves. And it was
Mm.
so juicy. And I just get all of this wild sensation all over my body when I was watching this caterpillar, you know?
Mhm.
Just like having my hands in dirt or yeah, or being connected with nature is something that makes me come alive, I think. And so
Yeah.
I like to um explore that with other people and hopefully give them an experience of being yeah, connected to nature in that way. So um ecosexuality comes, some of it comes out of the work of Annie Sprinkle and her partner. But I think lots of people have talked or written about concepts that are similar to ecosexuality. And for me, it's about there's lots of different things, but I think shifting my relationship with the earth from an extractive taking relationship to a reciprocal, give and take relationship. That's about honoring and being with and connecting. And yeah, I guess talking about like we are natural, we are nature. Like we are part of nature. We're not separate from nature. Our bodies are living beings, just like animals and just like dirt and just like trees and all of those sorts of things. And I think our connection from nature is just one of the disconnections that is making the world such an awful place at times to live in. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, I guess some of the ideas that I think about when I'm thinking about ecosexuality, it also comes out of like the kind of some of the more radical environmental movements. Yeah.
Beautiful. So
that description.
no, it's beautiful. Like it sounds like it's going to be a place where anyone who's curious can come and explore what does this mean for them, because it can mean so many different things. And you're going to hold a container where they can connect with the elements, with the earth, with the water, the creek. We are on such beautiful country where feast is held there. So just even being in that space and exploring that interrelatedness. I think nature is so orgasmic, and we're living so disconnected. It's right in front of us. So
Yeah.
giving a place for people to get curious about that. It's beautiful.
I think also I really love the idea that like, and this is something that I think has been shifting for a long time for me, but definitely shifted as a result of attending Feast, is that sex and sensation and pleasure and my erotic life isn't just genital based. Like it's about experiencing sensation with my whole self.
Yes.
And there is so much pleasure and sensation to be had in the natural world.
Yes. Yeah,
And so
beautiful.
being able to access pleasure in a different way can be really, really powerful for people.
Yeah, beautiful. Josslyn, to finish up, I'm curious what excites you most about coming to Feast 2025.
Oh, so many things. Connecting with people like me again.
Yeah.
So excited. No, that's not my main reason, but I think I want the opportunity to see those people who are coming in and experiencing it for the first time and seeing them go through that journey, and seeing that, and holding space for that journey with people.
Yes.
That's a big thing that I'm really, really excited about. I'm super excited to see other practitioners work, to see that the way that they create their spaces and the way that they facilitate, because I'm constantly learning, from what I'm seeing other people do. And so that's something that I'm super excited about. And yeah, just super excited about teaching. There's something really magic that happens in group spaces that just you can't have access that same magic in one-on-one work.
Yes.
I think there's something really powerful and beautiful about being witnessed in a group space. and being playful in a group space. We are not
Mm.
encouraged to play as adults, and
Mm.
we're mammals. Mammals learn through play. That's,
Yeah.
you know, and so if we don't play, we cut off a huge possibility for ourselves in terms of ways to learn. And I think when we can play and when we can experience with our whole bodies, that learning
Mm.
is installed or embedded much more deeply when we're using movement and we're using breath and we're using all of those tools that we have and present moment awareness. That learning is installed really, really deeply in our cells, I think,
Yes.
in a way
Yeah.
that like reading a book is, you're never going to get that.
No, it stays as a great idea when we read. There's learning to be had in reading and listening to podcasts and chatting to others. But I often say to people, unless there's ways to embody it, it's just academic.
Yeah.
And that's valuable, but people then get lost in, okay, I love these ideas. They're really great ideas. Now, how do I bring them into my life? That piece. And that's what Feast and working in an embodied way, embodied learning gives people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can know, yeah, exactly. I say this to my clients every day. Like I can see that you know this here, but you don't know it here. And
Mm-hmm.
until you know it here, we're just going to keep cycling through this same thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for chatting to us. We are so excited to have you on our team and see you in May.
I'm excited. Thanks,
Us
Susan.
too. Yeah. A pleasure. Bye for now, Josslyn.